The shotgun blast echoed through the cornfields like God's own thunder, shattering the summer night's sticky silence and sending a flock of blackbirds exploding from the old oak tree. I dropped the beer bottle I'd been nursing, glass shattering at my feet as shards bit into my bare ankles, and my heart slammed against my ribs like it was trying to escape. "Malachi!" I screamed into the dark, my voice cracking like a boy's, but all that answered was the low, guttural sob of a man I'd never seen break before. Gabriel, his uncle, staggering out of the barn with blood on his hands that wasn't his own. It was supposed to be simple. A week in rural Illinois, crashing at Malachi's family farm to escape the concrete jungle of Chicago summers and the ghosts of my last breakup. Malachi and I had been thick as thieves since freshman year at the University of Illinois. Him the golden boy with the easy laugh and quarterback build. Me the skinny art major with ink-stained fingers and a sketchbook full of half-drawn dreams. We'd bonded over late-night diner runs and shared secrets whispered over cheap whiskey. His about the pressure of being the good son, in a town that still whispered about his dead parents' car crash. Mine about the ache of loving boys in a world that pretended it didn't notice. When he invited me out to the farm for some real American downtime, I jumped at it. No cell service, no distractions. Just fields that stretched to forever, fireflies lighting up the dusk like fallen stars, and the kind of quiet that let you hear your own heartbeat. The farm sat on the edge of Willow Creek, a speck on the map where the Mississippi River bent lazy and wide, and the air smelled like turned earth and diesel fuel. Malachi's uncle Gabriel ran the place now, had since the accident 5 years back that stole Malachi's folks and left the kid shuttling between dorms and duty. Gabriel was the family anchor, or so Malachi said. A Vietnam vet turned reluctant farmer, broad-shouldered and quiet as a shadow, with eyes like storm clouds that could pin you in place without a word. I'd never met him, but Malachi painted him as this mythic figure. Tough love wrapped in calluses, the man who taught him to drive a tractor before a bicycle and fixed every fence with his own 2 hands. We rolled up in Malachi's beat-up Ford pickup just as the sun dipped low, painting the silos gold. The house was a weathered 2-story Victorian, porch sagging under the weight of too many winters, wild roses choking the lattice like they were trying to reclaim it for the wild. Malachi killed the engine and hopped out, hollering, "Uncle Gabe, we're home." I lingered in the cab, sketching the silhouette of the barn against the horizon in my notebook, the pencil strokes quick and hungry. That's when the screen door creaked open, and Gabriel stepped out. He was taller than I'd imagined, maybe 6'4", with a frame that spoke of hard labor. Muscles earned, not gym-sculpted, under a faded plaid shirt rolled to his elbows. His hair was black threaded with silver, falling just shy of his collar in waves that looked like they'd been wrestled into submission. But it was his face that hit me. Sharp jaw shadowed with stubble, a scar hooking down his left cheek like a question mark, and those gray eyes, piercing and unreadable, flicking over me like I was a puzzle he hadn't decided to solve yet. "Mal," he rumbled, voice low and gravelly, clapping his nephew on the back with a hand that could crush walnuts. Then his gaze settled on me, and the air thickened. "This the city boy?" I slid out, forcing a grin as heat crawled up my neck. "Elias. Yeah. Thanks for putting up with me." Up close, he smelled like hay and soap, something clean and earthbound that made my pulse stutter. Malachi laughed, slinging an arm around my shoulders. "Elias is harmless, Uncle Gabe. Just don't let him near the cows. They'll fall in love." Gabriel's lips twitched, not quite a smile, and he nodded once, sharp. "Supper's on. Don't track mud." Dinner was pot roast and cornbread at a scarred oak table that had seen 3 generations, the kind of meal that stuck to your ribs and warmed you from the inside. Malachi dominated the talk, spinning yarns about campus pranks and that time we streaked the quad during finals week, his laughter booming off the rafters. I chimed in, but my eyes kept drifting to Gabriel at the head of the table, silent mostly, forking into his plate with mechanical precision. When he did speak, it was to ask about my sketches, how he'd overheard Malachi bragging about my artsy shit on the phone. "What do you draw?" he asked, and his voice had this undercurrent, like he was testing waters he knew were deep. "People mostly," I said, meeting his stare. "The way they hide." He held my gaze a beat too long, then looked away, jaw tightening. Hiding's a survival skill out here. Malachi rolled his eyes. Ignore him, Elias. Uncle Gabe's all mystery and no fun. But there was an edge to it. A flicker in Gabriel's eyes that said the joke landed wrong. After, as Malachi dragged me out to the fire pit for beers, I glanced back at the kitchen window. Gabriel washing dishes alone, his broad back to the world, shoulders hunched like he carried more than just the farm. That first night, sleep wouldn't come. The guest room was a converted attic, slanted ceilings, and a lumpy mattress that smelled of mothballs, with a window overlooking the fields. Moonlight slanted in, silvering the dust motes, and I lay there sketching by flashlight. Gabriel's profile from memory, the scar a bold slash against the paper. It wasn't lust. Not yet. Just curiosity. The pull of a man who seemed carved from the same stubborn oak as the house. Down the hall, I heard Malachi snoring, but the floorboards creaked elsewhere. A shadow passing my door. I froze, pencil hovering. Footsteps paused, then retreated. I told myself it was nothing, the house settling, but my skin prickled like it knew better. Morning broke humid and golden, roosters crowing like they owned the dawn. Malachi was up early, dragging me to the barn for chores, mucking stalls and feeding the horses, his energy infectious as he taught me to toss hay bales without throwing my back. "See? You're a natural farm boy," he teased, sweat beading on his forehead. His tank top clinging in ways that used to make my stomach flip back in college. But that pull had faded. We were brothers now, uncomplicated. Gabriel joined us mid-morning, silent as he repaired a loose board on the stall. His hammer strikes measured and sure. I watched his hands, veined and rough, yet gentle with the wood, and felt that stutter again. When our eyes met over the pitchfork, he didn't look away. "You handle a tool like you've got stories in your grip," he said, low enough that Malachi didn't hear over the radio blaring country tunes. By afternoon, the heat was a beast, pressing down like a wet blanket. Malachi suggested a swim in the creek, the one that wound behind the property, cool and shaded by willows. "Come on, Elias. Shed the city skin." We stripped to boxers and dove in, the water shocking my system, laughter bubbling up as we splashed like kids. Gabriel watched from the bank, arms crossed, a faint smile ghosting his lips. "You boys'll catch your death," he called. But there was amusement there, rare and warm. Malachi beckoned him in. "Lighten up, uncle. Water's fine." Gabriel shook his head, but after a moment, he kicked off his boots and waded in, jeans rolled to his knees. The current tugged at him, and when he surfaced, water streaming down his chest, unbuttoning his shirt to let it dry, I had to look away. The scar on his cheek caught the light, and something in his eyes, vulnerable, unguarded, made my chest ache. That evening, around the fire pit, beers cracked and stars wheeling overhead, Malachi got maudlin. The whiskey bottle made the rounds, and he started on the accident. How the rain-slick road had betrayed his parents, how Gabriel had pulled him from the wreckage, bloodied but breathing. "He saved me, man. Gave up everything. His job in the city, his life, to keep this place afloat for me." Gabriel stared into the flames, face impassive. "Family's what you do." But his voice cracked on the last word, and Malachi clapped his shoulder, oblivious. I sketched them both then, the firelight carving shadows on their faces. Malachi open and boyish, Gabriel a fortress with cracks in the mortar. Later, as Malachi stumbled to bed, I lingered, poking the embers. Gabriel didn't move, his profile etched in orange glow. "You ever think about leaving this?" I asked, emboldened by the liquor. He turned, eyes searching mine. "Every damn day. But roots run deep. Deeper than you think." There was a weight to it, a confession half-spoken. And when his knee brushed mine in the dark, neither of us pulled away. The air hummed with unspoken things. Loneliness, maybe, or the kind of hunger that sneaks up on you in the quiet. "What about you, city boy? What roots you got?" I swallowed, the truth bitter on my tongue. "None worth keepin'. That's why I'm here." He nodded, slow, like he saw the lie in my bravado. Then he stood, hand lingering on my shoulder. Get some sleep, Elias. Tomorrow's another fight. I didn't sleep. The touch burned through my shirt, a brand I couldn't shake. By dawn, I was out sketching the mist-shrouded fields, pencil flying across the page. Gabriel imagined in the furrows, planting seeds he couldn't name. Malachi found me there, grinning. Up with the chickens? Uncle Gabe's got you hooked already. He meant the farm, but his tone had an undercurrent, jealous maybe, or protective. We spent the day fixing fences, the three of us in rhythm. Malachi hauling wire, me holding posts, Gabriel hammering with that quiet intensity. Sweat poured, shirts discarded, and I caught Gabriel's gaze on me more than once. Appraising, hungry. At lunch, under the big elm, Malachi dozed off, and Gabriel leaned close, voice a murmur. You draw me yet? My breath hitched. Maybe, he chuckled, low and rough. Better make me look good. That night, the storm rolled in from the west, thunder rumbling like distant artillery. We gathered in the living room, windows rattling, Malachi dealing poker by lamplight while rain lashed the panes. Gabriel played sparingly, but when he folded, his fingers brushed mine under the table. Deliberate, electric. Malachi didn't notice, too busy bluffing. As the cards flew, stories spilled. Gabriel's wore tales, sanitized for civilian ears. Jungles and brothers lost. The weight of survival. You learn to love in fragments, he said, eyes on me. Bits you steal when no one's looking. Malachi snorted. Deep, uncle. Real deep. But I felt it, the fragment he offered, sharp and precious. The power flickered out mid-hand, plunging us into dark. Malachi cursed, fumbling for candles. Gabriel's hand found mine in the black, steady, warm. Easy, he whispered. Close enough I felt his breath. My heart thundered. Then light bloomed, and he released me, but the ghost of his touch lingered. We lit the place up, shadows dancing wild, and Malachi suggested ghost stories. His was silly, farmhouse haunts and vanishing livestock. Mine trailed off, unfinished. Gabriel's was different. A soldier's confession, loving a man in foxholes, the betrayal of silence when they came home. Some wars you fight alone, he finished, voice raw. Malachi shifted, uncomfortable. That's heavy, man. But I saw it then, the parallel, the hidden war Gabriel waged in this straight-laced town. By midnight, Malachi conked out on the couch, snores rumbling. Gabriel and I cleaned up, elbows brushing in the kitchen, tension coiling like the storm outside. You get it, don't you? He asked, drying a plate with hands that trembled slightly. I nodded, throat tight. Yeah. He set the plate down, stepped closer. Too close, the air charged. Malachi, he doesn't know. About me. The admission hung, heavy. I wanted to ask about the man in the story, the fragment stolen, but his eyes pleaded silence. Instead, I touched his arm, light as a breath. You don't have to fight alone. Thunder crashed, and for a heartbeat, his hand covered mine. Then he pulled back, haunted. Go to bed, Elias, before I forget why I shouldn't. The next day dawned bruised and sodden, the fields a sea of mud under skies that wept without mercy. Malachi was all energy, declaring we'd push through, tractor work, rain be damned. But Gabriel vetoed it, his voice brooking no argument. Storms breedin'. Stay put. Malachi grumbled but relented, heading to town for supplies, leaving me alone with the man who'd haunted my sketches and my sleep. The house felt vast, echoes amplifying every creak. I found Gabriel in the study, a dim room off the hall stacked with ledgers and faded photos. His brother Malachi's dad, grinning in army fatigues, a younger Gabriel beside him, arms slung casual, eyes already shadowed. He looked up from a stack of bills, face drawn. Elias, didn't hear you. I leaned in the doorway, sketchbook clutched like a shield. Couldn't sleep much. Your story. He sighed, rubbing his scar. Old ghosts. Forget it. But I couldn't. I crossed to the desk, flipping open the book to the page I'd filled at dawn. Him in the rain, head bowed, a figure both fierce and fragile. His breath caught. Christ, that's me? I nodded, pulse racing. The way you hide, but not really. He traced the lines with a fingertip, reverent, then met my eyes raw, unguarded. No one's seen me like that. Not since. The sentence died, but the air filled with it. Since the man in the foxholes, the love stolen in shadows. We talked then, words tumbling like the downpour outside. He spoke of Nam. Not the glory bullshit, but the mud and fear. The night he and Tommy shared a foxhole, hands finding each other in the dark because tomorrow wasn't promised. It was pure, Elias. No labels, just us against the world. Back stateside, the world won. Tommy married a girl from his hometown, buried the truth under kids and a mortgage, while Gabriel drifted. Jobs in Chicago, bars where eyes met in corners, but nothing stuck. This farm is my penance. For survivin', for lovin' wrong. His voice broke, and I took his hand, calluses rough against my palm. It wasn't wrong. He searched my face, thumb brushing my knuckles. What about you? That breakup Mal mentioned. Boy trouble? I laughed. Bitter. Yeah, college fling. Thought it was real. But he ghosted when his frat brothers started asking questions. Gabriel's grip tightened. Cowards everywhere. The moment stretched electric until tires crunched gravel. Malachi back early, arms loaded with groceries and gossip from the diner. Flood warning, folks, might be stuck here till Tuesday. He dumped the bags, oblivious to the charge in the air, and roped us into cooking, chili bubbling on the stove, cornbread baking. But under the banter, glances lingered. Gabriel's on me when Malachi turned, mine stealing looks at the flecks of his forearms as he chopped onions. Dinner was tense, Malachi chattering about town drama. A neighbor's affair exposed, whispers of that way in the feed store. Gabriel's fork paused, jaw clenching. People talk shit, 'cause their own lives are empty. Malachi shrugged. Still, uncle, you gotta watch it out here. The words landed like stones, and Gabriel's eyes darkened. Watch what, exactly? Malachi faltered, then laughed it off. Nothing. Just saying. But the seed was planted, suspicion flickering. After Malachi pulled me aside in the hall. Hey, you good? Uncle Gabe's been intense. Don't let him scare you off. I forced a smile. Nah, he's cool. But Malachi's eyes narrowed, protective. He's family. Don't get ideas. Night fell heavy, the storm raging full tilt. Wind howling like banshees, branches clawing the roof. Power held, barely, lamps flickering. We played cards again, but the mood soured when Malachi accused Gabriel of cheating, half joking. Always the vet's poker face. Gabriel slammed his hand down. Maybe I taught you too well. The room chilled, and Malachi stormed off to bed early, muttering about mood swings. Alone, Gabriel poured us whiskey neat. Kid's got fire. Takes after his ma. We sat on the porch despite the gale. Rain sheeting off the eaves, shoulders brushing. He suspects, doesn't he? I ventured. Gabriel nodded, slow. Always has. Found my letters once from Tommy. Burned 'em, but the damage. He trailed off, pain etching deeper lines. I leaned in, forehead to his shoulder. Let me in. His arm came around me, tentative then sure, holding on like a lifeline. We didn't kiss, not yet. It was enough to breathe the same air, hearts sinking to the thunder. Morning brought uneasy truce. Malachi was distant, chores done in silence. Gabriel and I stole moments, brushing hands in the barn, a shared look over coffee that said more than words. But the farm demanded attention. A fence down in the back 40, cows lowing restless. We rode out on the ATV, Malachi opting to stay and fix the generator. The fields were a quagmire, mud sucking at the tires, but Gabriel handled it like he'd tamed worse. At the break, under a lone cottonwood, he pulled me close. First real touch, hands framing my face. This is dangerous, he murmured. But his lips found mine, soft and urgent, tasting of rain and regret. It was a spark to dry tinder, bodies pressing, breaths mingling. But we broke apart at the rumble of thunder? Or was it the ATV? No, just the storm. We can't, he gasped, forehead to mine. Not with him here. But his eyes begged otherwise. Back at the house, Malachi was waiting, face thunderous. Where the hell were you two? Gabriel brushed it off. Fixin' what needs fixin'. But Malachi's gaze bored into me, accusatory. That afternoon, he cornered me in the attic. What's going on, Elias? You and Uncle Gabe don't bullshit me. My stomach dropped. Nothing, man. Just. He laughed. Sharp. I see how he looks at you. How you look back. He's family, Elias. Messed up, yeah, but mine. Betrayal stung. Not in his words, but the undercurrent. Like I'd stolen something sacred. I'm not trying to hurt anyone. Malachi's eyes softened, then hardened. You already are. Dusk brought fragile peace. Dinner subdued, talk of weather and football. But as night cloaked the farm, the real storm brewed inside. Malachi retired early, claiming a headache. Gabriel found me on the porch, wrapped in a quilt against the chill. He knows. It wasn't a question. Gabriel sank beside me, head in hands. I should have told him years ago, but fear. It's a hell of a chain. I took his hand, lacing fingers. Tell him now. He shook his head. Can't risk losing him. The words hung, and in the silence, I kissed him, slow, deliberate, pouring in the ache of wanting something real. He responded, hand cupping my neck, pulling me deeper. It was romantic, not rushed. Lips exploring, hearts laid bare under the indifferent stars. When we parted, his whisper was a vow. This, you, it's the first light I've seen in years. But light casts shadows. Mid-kiss, the porch light snapped on, blinding. Malachi stood in the doorway, face ashen. What the fuck? Time fractured. Gabriel jerked back, guilt carving his features. Mal, listen. But Malachi's eyes were on me, wounded. You? My best friend. He turned, fleeing into the house, door slamming like a gunshot. Gabriel started after, but I grabbed his arm. Let me. Upstairs, Malachi paced his room, fists clenched. How long? God, Elias. I trusted you. Tears tracked his face. Not just anger, but grief. For the family he'd pieced together from ruins. He's all I got. And you're supposed to be my brother. I reached for him, but he recoiled. Get out. Both of you. The night unraveled. Gabriel and I sat in the kitchen, whiskey untouched, waiting for the fallout. Dawn crept in gray, Malachi's truck peeling out before first light. No goodbye, just gravel spitting and taillights fading. Gabriel's face crumpled. I broke him. Again. I pulled him close, holding his sobs shook his frame. Raw, unfiltered, the fortress crumbling. We'll fix it, I promised, though doubt gnawed. The farm felt hollow without Malachi's laugh. The air thick with unspoken accusations. Days blurred. Gabriel retreating into work, me sketching empties. Fields barren, figures fractured. One evening, phone signal flickering back, Malachi texted. Need space. Don't follow. Betrayal's knife twisted, his, mine, ours. Yet in the wreckage, something bloomed. Gabriel and I navigated the quiet. Walks by the creek. Hands linked. Talking futures neither dared dream. What if we left? He mused one twilight, willows whispering. Sold this place, started over. You, me, somewhere they don't stare. My heart swelled. Romance in the ruin. Love forged in fire. But roots, as he said, ran deep. Malachi's shadow loomed. The boy we'd wounded. The weeks stretched into a limbo of waiting. The farm a pressure cooker of regret and stolen tenderness. Gabriel threw himself into repairs. The barn roof patched, silos reinforced against the next blow. His hammer strikes a metronome to our unspoken grief. I join him, wordless at first, handing tools, our fingers brushing like apologies. I'm sorry, I'd murmur, and he'd shake his head, silver hair catching the sun. No, this is on me. Always has been. But in the evenings, when the world hushed, we'd sit on the porch swing. creaking relic from his grandparents' time, and let the river's murmur fill the gaps. His hand would find mine, thumb tracing circles, and we'd talk. Dreams deferred, like his to study engineering before the draft stole it, or mine of a gallery show in New York that felt galaxies away. You could still do it, he'd say, voice fierce. Take me with you. Romance wove through the pain, soft as the fireflies we chased one humid night, laughing like kids as he caught one on his palm, its glow illuminating the hope in his eyes. But hope's a fragile thing. Malachi's silence stretched, texts unanswered, calls to voicemail purgatory. I paced the attic, sketching feverishly. Triptychs of us three, Malachi's grin fading to accusation, Gabriel's scar a map of battles, my own face a blur of longing and guilt. One afternoon, rifling for a fresh pencil, I found a box under the eaves. Gabriel's, tucked away like contraband. Inside, dog-eared letters from Tommy, yellowed photos of two soldiers arm in arm, and a journal, spine cracked from use. Curiosity burned. I flipped it open, words leaping like accusations. June 72. Tommy's laugh in the rain, God, if they knew. Buried it today for the core. For home. But it eats me. September 75. Back in Cheetown, bars full of ghosts. Saw a boy who looked like him, tasted regret instead. April 80, Mal's folks gone. Promised my brother I'd raise the kid right. No room for my kinda wrong here. The last entry, dated a month ago. City boy comin'. Mal says he's got heart. Pray I don't ruin it. My chest caved. This wasn't just survival. It was sacrifice. A life hollowed out for love's sake. Tears blurred the ink as I closed it, vowing silence. But betrayal's echo rang. Malachi's words, don't get ideas. Had he known longer than he let on? The door creaked. Gabriel mud-streaked from the fields. Elias! I shoved the journal back, but his eyes sharpened. What did you find? Shame flooded me. I shouldn't have. He crossed, gentle, pulling me up. It's okay. That's my cage. Been rattlin' it too long. We sank to the bed, his arms around me, and the story spilled. Not just Tommy, but the years of isolation, the farm as both anchor and prison. I thought hiding kept us safe, but it just starved us. I kissed his temple, salt on my lips. No more hiding. That confession cracked something open. We grew bolder, lazy mornings tangled in sheets. Not carnal but intimate, bodies mapping each other's scars. His from shrapnel and silence, mine from rejections etched in faded tattoos. We'd cook together, his rough hands guiding mine over dough, laughter bubbling as flour dusted our noses. Your trouble, city boy? He'd growl, nipping my ear, and I'd melt, whispering back, your kind of trouble. It was romantic, humanistic, themes of two souls finding grace in the grind, proving love's not a battlefield but a bomb. Yet the idol frayed. Malachi's absence gnawed, a ghost at the table. Then the call came, fifth day, signal strong for once. Malachi's voice, edged with exhaustion. Elias, meet me at the diner. Alone. My gut twisted. Gabriel nodded, jaw set. Go. I'll be here. The drive to Willow Creek Diner was a blur. Neon sign flickering open 24/7, like a bad omen. Rain-slick roads mirroring my unease. Malachi sat in a corner booth, coffee black and untouched, face gaunt under the fluorescence. Seat. No warmth, just weariness. I slid in, heart hammering. Mal-e. Save it. He cut me off, eyes red-rimmed. I knew, okay? About Uncle Gabe. Found the letters years ago, confronted him once. He swore it was past tense, that he'd bury it for me. Betrayal landed like a sucker punch. Not mine, but his, the double-edged sword of protection and pain. I invited you here thinking it'd be good for him. Company, someone to pull him out. But seeing you two, it ripped the scab off. Tears welled. He swiped them angry. He's the only family I got left, Elias. And you were my friend. How do I forgive that? The diner hummed around us. Truckers jawing, waitress refilling mugs. But we were islands, adrift. I leaned forward, voice cracking. We didn't plan it. It just happened. Like breathing. He laughed, hollow. Breathing? That's what you call sneaking around my house. Shame burned, but truth pushed through. It wasn't sneaking. It was surviving. For him. For us. Malachi's gaze softened. Fractionally. He deserves more than this town, this farm. Hell, so do you. But me? I can't watch it break him again. The words hung. His love fierce, sacrificial, a mirror to Gabriel's. I ain't coming back yet. Need to figure my own shit. But tell him I'm not gone forever. Relief warred with ache as I drove home. The radio crooning Springsteen. Thunder Road. Fitting anthem for cracked highways and mended hearts. Gabriel waited on the porch. Lantern glow haloing his worry. Well, I told him every word. Ending with Malachi's grace note. He exhaled, shoulders sagging. Kids stronger than me. We embraced then. Rain misted and real, the world narrowing to us. But peace was fleeting. That night, as lightning stitched the sky, the shotgun blast shattered it all. I'd woken to thirst, padding downstairs for water. Gabriel was out cold beside me. We'd taken to sharing his bed, the master suite with its iron frame and quilt from his ma. The blast jolted me upright, glass from a shattered bottle, mine from earlier, embedding in my foot as I bolted outside. Cornfields whipped wild, but the barn door yawned open, light spilling. Malachi! My scream tore raw. Had he come back? Vengeance? But it was Gabriel who emerged, hands slick with blood, face ashen. Not his blood. A fox, raider of the henhouse, its body limp in his grip. Damn varmint, he rasped, but his eyes were wild, haunted. Not by the kill, but something deeper. Woke me. Thought it was worse. He meant intruders, ghosts of war, or Malachi, gun in hand. I pulled him inside, bandaging the shallow cuts from the struggle. Our touches frantic, affirming life. He's coming back, I whispered, cleaning glass from my foot. We wait. Gabriel nodded, but doubt shadowed him. Dawn broke, and we buried the fox under the oak. A small ritual, earth turned. Words murmured for the wild things caught in crossfires. Days turned to weeks. Malachi's return a horizon mirage. Gabriel and I built anyway. Futures sketched over breakfast, plans for Chicago. Him apprenticing at a carpentry shop, me chasing galleries, visits home to mend fences. Romance deepened, humanistic in its grit. Love as choice, not fate, forgiving flaws in the forgiving light. One evening, fireflies dancing, Gabriel knelt by the creek. Not proposal, but promise. Ring a simple silver band from his father's toolshed. No eating anymore. Marry this mess. Tears pricked. I pulled him up, kissing fierce. Every day. The climax crashed that stormy night. Malachi's truck roaring up unannounced. Headlights cutting the gale. He burst in, soaked, shotgun slung careless, hunting rifle not loaded for bear. We talk. Now. Gabriel faced him in the kitchen, me hovering like a referee. Thunder punctuated accusations. Malachi's rage at the secrecy, Gabriel's plea for understanding. I was protecting you from my shame. My interjections, begging bridge. It peaked when Malachi hurled the truth. You think I don't know shame? Losing mom and dad. Shuttling like baggage? But I chose you, uncle. Chose this life. Gabriel staggered as if shot. And I'd choose it again. For you. Silence fell, broken only by rain. Then Malachi deflated, gun clattering to floor. I just want us whole. We talked till dawn. Tears, shouts, truths unearthed like buried treasure. Betrayal's sting faded to scar. Forgiveness a slow bloom. Malachi stayed, wary at first, but thawing. Shared chores with Gabriel, late-night beers with me, stories retold without edges. The farm endured, a metaphor for us. Storms weathered, soil enriched by upheaval. Months on, as leaves turned fire-red, we stood three strong under the oak. Gabriel and I wed in a quiet ceremony, Malachi best man, his toast slurring happy. To upside-down plans, he grinned. clinking glasses. And the family that writes him. It wasn't perfect, town whispers lingered, old wars echoed, but it was human. Love's messy grace, betrayal's lesson in deeper bonds. I sketched it all, the canvas full at last. Not hiding, but home.